Hey guys, welcome back to the What About AI podcast. I'm Sean Boyce,
I'm James Perkins.
and the topic that we want to talk about today is research that's been done to try to identify the top 5 skills that AI can't replace. And we talk a lot about what it can replace, but the idea here is to kind of focus more on what's more important for you to hold on to, at least for now. So, the research that was done, I'm going to share a little bit more of that background. Company basically scraped over 200 active job postings on platforms like Indeed and others to look for anything that had something AI in the title across industries and across titles, to look for what those job postings had in common, and then try to identify those patterns and break it down into a couple of different categories, which we're going to talk about here as well too. But what it found was across 83% of those job postings that it scraped, it found these 5 different potential soft skills to basically be an area where humans are likely going to provide more value than AI, at least for now.
As of
Yeah,
2 p.m.
yes,
Eastern Time,
we have
or
to be very specific with our timestamp there. But I don't know. What do you think? What do you think of the approach and doing this in terms of research to try to identify something like that
I,
now?
I think it's interesting. I want to hear more. I,
Yeah.
I think when you do research like this, you're just basically scraping a bunch of documents and identifying commonalities or patterns within, which AI is terrific at doing, by the
Yeah,
way.
true.
So these researchers may be concerned if they weren't using AI for their research. I don't know that there are any. Oh, I should hear it out first. I want to hear what the skills are. So I'll
Okay.
give my feedback later.
Fair. I know you're itching to get into it,
I
so
am.
we will. And I'm going to go one by one, not just throw them all out there at the same time. But so the first one that it identified, common across all the research that it did, strategic thinking, as in what AI can't set in terms of direction. Let's talk about that one first. I don't know. How do you feel?
I think that's not true anymore. So
I
as of
would
the latest
agree with
release,
that one too.
yeah, I think as of the latest releases, maybe even Opus
I,
4.5,
yeah.
there was some element of strategic thinking capability. Now it has second order thinking where it can start asking questions about what comes next. Oh, you want to make this change in MailChimp? Okay, you should consider these 3 things. Do you have an answer for that yet? No, I'll come back to you. And it does. So, I mean, that's more tactical than
Mhm.
strategic. But even on some of the planning we've done, like, I mean, we're building a business here as well. When we go through some of our iterations of planning, we've posed questions to AI and it's coming back with follow-up questions or additional research suggestions or even prompts we could use. So I would say strategic thinking is something AI can do already, and it's only going to improve this year.
I agree. I don't know if that's an area to kind of double down on at the moment in the human category exclusively. I think at best at the moment, that's a hybrid leveraging AI, humans leveraging AI to do more and perform better when it comes to strategic thinking.
Humans do kick-ass strategery, though.
That's right.
That we can do.
Good point. Yeah. Hey, I probably get pretty confused by that. Maybe we'll ask it the question during this episode. All right. So the first one, we're kind of voting down or maybe middle of the road so far. Okay. The second one, critical thinking,
Mhm.
as in can't judge if the output is right.
I've seen some of that currently. So even the current models still struggle. If you give it really well-defined bounds, it'll go do the work. But then when it comes time for QA or validation testing, it doesn't know exactly what to look for, and it can't always determine intent of the ask.
Mhm.
So you may tell it to go create a new group. By the way, I was working on MailChimp just before this. So all my examples are MailChimp. But you may go tell it to create a new audience or group within MailChimp, and it'll do that, but it won't think through, oh, well, this should be all new signers, not the existing individuals who are part of the group. And it doesn't necessarily identify those edge cases you would test for as a human on its own.
I'm going to agree with this one as well too. I think this is still an area where the human is critically important, especially earlier on. The newer models when they came out, the output wasn't always the most accurate. I think even still, I catch mistakes, and it's still really important, I think, to evaluate the results that the AI produces because it may not be exactly what you're looking for. Even in the newest models, which we've been talking about recently, still catching some things where I'm like, that's not quite right. As in, it may not necessarily be technically inaccurate, but it's not really the direction that I want to head, and I need to make some kind of mid-course correction. So I'm going to agree with that one for sure as well. Okay, number 3, collaboration, as in can't connect across teams.
I disagree with that. I think the feedback I'm getting so far, and there aren't too many agents in broader teams yet, it's just starting right now. But even within our little community here and the agents we're working with, it's able to factor in for things that Sean has requested versus what I've requested and debate them and come to a conclusion that like weighs in the research the agent has done plus our preferences. So I've seen really good behavior in that regard. It's not there yet, but it's pretty close.
I take those points as well too. I'm going to let this one, I'm going to agree with this one in the category of being important for humans to still continue to focus on this skill as a way to differentiate themselves. And it's mostly because of how I think a lot of companies still operate today. We talked about recently Opus 4.6 and agent teams. And I think the tech is at the point now where it can communicate agent by agent pretty effectively. We've done a bunch of testing there and reviewed those results, and that's been pretty promising. But in terms of how companies operate still today, and the politics and the layers and all that other type of stuff, I think navigating that in terms of leveraging the tech, I think that's probably still going to be a pretty important human skill moving forward, especially the larger the company gets. So
Yeah, I don't
I'm
think
going to
AI is
disagree
going
with you on
to
that one,
account for the politics of like, go ahead and do that. But really, they meant don't do it.
right? Pull the ripcord. Wait a minute, what happened here? Okay, let's talk about number 4, communication. Can't translate nuance.
I think that's true. I
Agreed.
think right now there's a big struggle, even with 4.6, even with its forward thinking capabilities. If you give it an amorphous ask, it'll discern what it thinks you're getting at. And oftentimes it goes for um, kind of like the lowest order of magnitude. It doesn't want to take any risk. So
Path
if,
of least resistance, kind of.
yeah, yeah. So I think lowest common denominator considerations, I would agree. It cannot discern um, specifics or nuance in any requests.
Agreed. I'm going to agree with this one as well too. I don't think it's there yet. To your point, I think it's usually missing context, or it may also be that effect, which is an interesting thing that I read about way back when in terms of why this kind of gets to the inaccuracy of the output problem, but why AI was still so subject to making those mistakes. And it basically is because it's been programmed to try to give us everything we want as quickly as possible. So it's trying to appease us. And in doing so, it limits its ability to basically like push back and say, I don't have enough context, or I don't understand, or something like that. And I think that spills into this one a little bit too.
Yeah, I'd agree. So what's the score? Because that was
Well, so
5.
far we've got 4, got one more. And the fifth one is adaptability. Can't handle ambiguity.
Hmm. I would agree with that one.
Same.
And it's kind of the one we just spoke to previously. But if you give it something that's amorphous or ambiguous, it struggles. And now it'll ask follow-up questions, which is good. So it's kind of error checking. If it knows it's too loose, it'll say, "Hey, can you give me answers to these things?" But even still, if your prompt is not explicit and very clear, you're not going to get the output you were hoping for.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm going to agree with this one for sure as well. Pretty much for all the reasons that I just mentioned in response to the last one. I think that's definitely going to be a key skill for humans to maintain moving forward as well. Not just in the context that we provided here, but also leveraging the latest and greatest that AI and tech has to provide as well also. Okay, so that's 5. That's their 5. And I think we probably disagree with like 1 to 2 from that list. Is there anything else you think we should add to this list based on work we've done in coaching and working with the businesses?
That's a good question. I think there's a couple things. So first, I would say every time you put a request to any of these agents or ChatGPT or Claude, et cetera, they're firing up a nuclear power center, draining water
Doubling
reservoirs.
everyone's energy bills.
So it's very expensive. So yes, it can do all these amazing things, but keep in mind that that is being subsidized right now by like a collective $1 trillion of investment in the
Great
AI
point.
companies. That's probably not going to persist indefinitely. They have to make their money back. So they're going to start charging more for it, which means less compute for tasks that humans can very efficiently handle. And there's a lot of things that don't require AI. So I think there will be a slow push towards human skills where humans are very efficient. And we're running on like what, 5 watts of energy and 3 square meals a day. So it's a big advantage of being human right now is that we can compute things very cheaply. That's one. I'd say the second thing, and that's not really from our community, from the people we've been working with, I would say it's the ability to understand dynamic information and apply it to a specific use case. So right now, all the knowledge of the world sits in OpenAI and ChatGPT, but it's not good at information synthesis. So if you combine like four different topics, it really can't handle that. So if you make a joke in a meeting about the jungle, AI couldn't interpret the meaning from that joke and how it relates to the topic you're talking about. And that may not be the best example, but there are a lot of things humans are inherently good at doing as part of their communicating with each other that you can't do with AI. You can't just talk plainly to AI and expect it to discern what matters from what you said and act upon it. Whereas human beings are still good at that. And I think that will persist for quite some time. Even as AI advances, it's trying to synthesize all of the world's knowledge and make it useful. As individuals, we pare down all the time. Our brains, every time we go to sleep at night, your brain is like cutting loose ends. Neurons are just shutting down because they're not necessary anymore. And some for some more than others. I think I'm losing a lot every night. But the AI systems have to be completely retrained for that same benefit. So that's another advantage of being human right now.
Well said. I would agree with those points for sure. Calling out the fact that it's a spending spree at the moment is a really good one. So this is a mad dash grab for them to capture market share and get it in the hands of everyone and test it, far and wide and all that kind of stuff in terms of what it's capable of. But that eventually will change pretty dramatically. So
I
I
think
think we're
so.
likely to see the tech continue to get better because of that, but its applications to be maybe a little bit more restricted based on cost effectiveness. I think that's kind of what we see over time. So that may also mean a change where what humans are currently capable of is going to be more important because you're not necessarily, it's not going to be as cost effective to leverage the technology for everything. As Sarah Connor would say, have you seen that meme? The
No,
picture of Sarah Connor that says, where she just looks super distraught leaning against the chain link
I'm
fence
pretty
because
sure
she
she'd be
says,
rolling over in her video
yeah,
grave.
caption says, Sarah Connor watching you use AI for everything. That was one of the first ones I saw I thought was really good. Okay, so we've talked about a lot here already. I want to talk about for our listeners what they can start to do with this information, what this means for them. A couple other things I've got here. I think one call out for sure in research we've done is the limited effectiveness of the old school resume in terms of having a lot of these things come through. Because again, these are mostly soft skills, right? So as much as you write down on a resume, it's probably going to come through a lot more effectively through demonstration, storytelling, the interviews that you're going to have, so on and so forth. And I'm going to share some stats from Gartner in terms of the research they're doing and the predictions that they're making. So they expect that 75% of the hiring processes by next year to include at least a screening or an assessment about AI proficiency, as well as more than half of the same processes to include a skills assessment that is AI free. So no calculators, no open book, just pure raw, whatever you got in that noggin of yours kind of thing. So that's interesting. I don't know how you see kind of this stuff evolving or what advice you might have for folks based on what we're expecting to change.
Yeah, we actually had this conversation. A lot of the stuff I learned from just as Sean saying it for the first time. But
Trying to surprise them. Most of these are gotcha questions.
we had this conversation maybe 2 weeks ago. I think people are getting less able to use their brain via AI. And I've seen it myself
I
occasionally.
can literally feel it while
Yeah,
I'm using it all the time.
like there's a dependence that's increasing because you're going AI for everything. And this happened with, I mean, anyone that's around before a calculator, and there's a lot of folks I hope watching that were around before that. I
Just
mean,
trying to make me feel old.
it took it took a lot away in the sense that you could do quick math in your head like that before, no problem. And now you have to kind of think through it, like long division.
Right.
I was doing it for my son's homework, and I was like, I need a calculator. I'm done.
Skills have kind of atrophied. Yeah, no, it's a really good point.
But I
I've
could
seen the
do
same.
that instantaneously, maybe 20 years ago.
Yep.
So AI is having the same effect, but it's on broader intelligence. And I think the AI free testing is probably alluding to what I just spoke to about, there's going to be a very high cost for compute. So as you interview and go through these processes, companies that are smart enough to see ahead are going to say, we want some of this to be done fully by the person, by the individual.
Yep.
They have to have that knowledge inherent.
Agreed.
And yeah, I expect that to persist.
Agreed. And same. I feel like I could ask you 500 questions and come up with a million talking points on that topic alone. So we'll save that for a separate episode because we're already going a little bit longer than usual here. But so the last one that I've got is, basically what this means for our listeners in terms of the wage premiums or how they can position themselves as effectively as possible to be in the best place to make as much or earn more. as they are combining all of these skills together. So there's a stat here from research that PwC did, and their expectation, or the based on the results that they've conducted, what they see is that workers with AI skills are earning upwards of 60% more than those workers without. So I think that's probably a good takeaway here, as in not just the skills to kind of focus on yourself to maintain and try to get better at, the ones that we called attention to specifically and what we've seen, but also, again, getting us comfortable with this technology, that being AI, as much as possible as well. Also, I think will continue to make you look like a more attractive candidate and just be someone who can provide that much more value to these businesses. I don't know. What advice do
Yeah,
you have?
well, that's what we've seen. What we've seen is if you don't have AI skills and you're not willing to learn them or you haven't adapted to them, you are actively being removed from the workforce. So,
Pretty aggressively.
yeah, the folks that have those skills are earning 60% more, but on the backs of the folks that are being removed entirely because they don't have those skills at all. So, and that's not like a fear tactic. If you're watching this and you avoided learning AI or think AI sucks, you can feel that way, but you're not going to have a career very long if you're not willing to adapt and at least embrace it somewhat and be aware and knowledgeable of how to use it.
Yeah, Sarah Connor will only judge you for a little bit as long as you add those skills and then you
Well,
benefit from it
that's a
for
different existential question. Like, are we headed towards
however
doomsday?
long this goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well said. Okay, I think we've unpacked this one fairly effectively. Anything else you want to mention before we wrap up?
No, I would say check out whataboutai.com if you haven't already. We have a ton of free guides. Almost everything we're doing is free for the
Yep.
community.
As much as possible.
Yeah, so check it out if you haven't already. Tons of free information and knowledge there. If you have questions, email us. We both have emails, James and then Sean at whataboutai.com. We respond pretty quickly. That's
Awesome.
all.
Yeah, well said. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We appreciate it.
Thanks all.